10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this July 23rd, 2018 afternoon. And Chris, let's get to the first story I want to bring up right away, which is, well, first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm on my. You hear my chair squeak?
Yeah, you're squeaking. You're pounding keys in the background.
I'm on my squeaky chair, and I told you I'm having a midlife crisis, but I'm trying to take advantage of it rather than fall into a depression. So
yeah, at least you're buying stuff. That's good. I like that.
Well, my wife told me today that my 14-year-old will only be with us another 4 years, and I said, "Well, where's he going?" Because it didn't dawn on me that he's.
Chris,
because to me he's like a
kids will live
10-year-old
with you forever. Yeah. They're never leaving. It's crazy when you think about it. 14 already. They're leaving in 18. I know. It's nuts. There's still little kids in your mind. That's why.
You're 100% right.
So I what was I have two stories to tell you, and then I wanted to comment on what were you saying before? You said that your kids were leaving the house and
I was having a 51 a midlife crisis.
Midlife crisis.
No, you know what? You know what's sad? In context to that, before the show started, I never look at single-family homes in this town, and I just thought, I wonder what single-family homes are selling for. And I saw my friend who died of a heart attack suddenly at 51 years old. So, he died like 2 months ago, and here's this. My wife had just asked me what's happening with his house or who's living there. Maybe his wife's living there, and there it is. It's under contract, actually.
Wow, you got a pair of balls. I'll tell you that much. When you buy, because when you buy properties, you got mortgages. It's a lot of pressure.
Everything's pressure, dude.
I know. But
life is pressure.
So my dad's not doing well. I kind of mentioned last week, but he's on his last legs, unfortunately. I know a lot of people. It's funny. Sal has a pretty good following on RX Muscle. Everyone seems to I know Paul Cullen might be his number one fan. I think he sent him something in the mail, a get well letter. But everyone seems to like my dad's stories, and unfortunately, they may not be around for very much longer. But we moved into a hospice now, which is really it's a nice place. But obviously, you go to hospice to die. And I don't know how much longer my dad's got, but his body's kind of shutting down. That hip replacement he had just had after he broke his leg, just his body just didn't recover from it. And he's got an infection, and it's not being treated right. It's just not responding well. He's not eating enough, and he's just not going. He's going downhill. So I'm like giving him like these talks, like, Dad, and he's not really that coherent. He's not that. He's conscious, but he's really out of his mind. But I'm like, Dad, you don't need to fight anymore. Just surrender, and just whatever happens. And
well, does he know he's like at that stage where does he know what you're talking about? Surrender to what?
I don't know if he knows what I'm talking about. I'm kind of hinting around him, but I'm like thinking. I'm like having these very deep conversations, which I'm kind of usually uncomfortable, but I feel comfortable because I don't think he was really. He's not Sal Palumbo normally, because if the normal Sal Palumbo would be like, I don't want to hear this spiritual crap, but he's open to hearing it now. But I'll be like, he's telling me all these people are chasing me, and they won't leave me alone in my dreams. I'm like, well, who are they? He goes, they're not alive. They're all dead people that I know. I said, well, what does that mean? What do you think it means? He goes, I don't know. Maybe I'm dying. I said, are you at peace with that? I said, or are you scared? He's like, I'm at peace with it. And then today, they moved him to this hospice. I'm thinking, all right, well, he's on his last legs. I'm like, he's talking like his father now. He's got this like raspy voice, and he says, no way. I said, no way what? And he goes, I ain't giving up. Or he didn't say ain't, because my dad doesn't use that word. He said, I'm not giving up. I said, all right, well, that's that's a good attitude. I said, now he's like forcing, he's like, get me that chocolate shake. He's like drinking now. He's like drinking these Ensures. They have like a refrigerator full of Ensure there. No one in the place will drink one of them. Like everyone thinks they're disgusting. My dad thinks it's like chocolate milk. He's like, that's the only thing he'll eat. But they got a lot of protein, even though it's crap in there. There is protein in there. So he's living on these Ensures, and he's coming down to the wire here. I wrote a poem while I was sitting there all day today at his room.
I put in a request to Sal to write a poem for me, but go ahead. You saw
I wrote a poem about his life. It's called Death, and it's him talking to death, basically. And I read it to him, and I acted it out like my father would do it. And I actually saw it, because I don't even know if anything's registering. I actually saw a tear in his eye. And so after the poem, I said to him, I'm thinking, all right, well, I moved him emotionally, right, if he's got a tear in his eye. I'm like, what'd you think, Dad? He's like, not bad.
He's still well then.
Yeah, he's still got a sense of humor about him. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how much longer he's got. So I'm going there every day just because I don't know how much longer he's got, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how it plays out. I'll tell you one thing, Dad. Those hospice places are unbelievable with the setups they got there. Wow, talking about dying in dignity. They give you whatever you want. I actually brought my dad a bottle of wine. Unfortunately, I'm the only one drinking it because I need it while I'm there to deal with what's going on. Like that, you want a sip of wine, you take 2 sips. Normally he would have downed the whole bottle already. There's one guy there I see he's walking around with an IV in his arm. I don't know what's wrong with him. He probably would tell me if I asked him, but I really don't. I find I don't like to ask people what their personal problems. But I guess if you're there dying and you don't really care. He's like asking me for cigarettes. He's probably got like lung cancer or something like that. The guy. He's like, these nicotine, it's more addictive than any other drug in this world. I said, yeah. Luckily, I never got addicted to that. I said, so. That's where I've been spending my days, writing poems by my father's deathbed. I'll read the poem. After my father dies, I'll read the poem on the air. But I'm not going to do it before that. But it's. I always loved the poem, Do Not Go Gently Into That Good Night, which was a poem that...
I don't even know the movies, dude, what's going on. I don't know what's on Netflix, let alone but I can appreciate it.
I'm sure you read that in school. You weren't homeschooled, were you?
No, but I told you I made it through high school on Cliff Notes only. So I would have read that poem in like it would have been like a game show. I could have named that tune. I could have read that poem in like 3 lines if it was like 30 lines.
Dylan Thomas, who was I think my father told me he was a morphine addict or something like that. Wrote a poem to his dad. Okay, he wrote a poem to his dad about his dad was dying. And he basically was like, do not go gently to that good night. It was rage against the dying of the light. Everyone knows that's very common lines from the poem. And he was basically telling his father, don't give up the fight, basically. So I wrote my dad a poem similar to that, except my dad is basically, telling off death, in the poem. And that's what, that was the poem. And I thought it was well done. So, and I did it pretty quickly. It was inspired. So when my dad dies, God willing, it lasts. We got another couple weeks. I'll read the poem, and I'll act it out the way I did it for my dad. And then if you tell me not bad, then I know I know I did a good job. I know I did a good job. So anyway, to change the subject to a more positive note, as you know, I've been on this rampage to try to get Hadi Chupin into the U.S. to compete at the Olympia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been calling everyone I know. And
ain't gonna happen.
That's what everyone says, but
no, because I listen,
called Amin a lie.
When I go ahead, I'll tell you I have an Olympia story when someone couldn't get into the country. I went to my senator and had a meeting, and it didn't go well.
Right. Well, I called Amin a lie, who is friends with Roger Stone, who as you know is friends with Trump.
He's getting ready to be indicted, but go ahead.
Right, but he's a bodybuilding aficionado. So I don't know if what I try to do is I try to get, and if anyone out there knows Hadi Chupin personally, and we're trying to get Hadi Chupin. The guy is hard to get in touch with. I can't get in touch with him. I called King Kamali. King Kamali is not really answering me, so I don't know if he has access to this guy either. I'm like, look, have him call Amin and let them arrange whatever they got to arrange. And then I had another person contact me from what we said the last week, and basically said that they know a lawyer who does this kind of stuff. There's there are exceptions to get people, for exceptional people, to get them into the country, for like this. As long as he wasn't, arrested or something like that, I guess he needs a sponsor here, someone to sponsor him. So I say Chris Aceto will sponsor him. Chris will put him up in his house. Actually, Hani Rambod, who does his diet, should be his sponsor.
Yeah,
we reached out to him too. Hani never got back to us. I think he's mad because of the whole Jeremy Buendia thing, but that's unconfirmed. Sid reached out to him. I didn't personally. I'll try this week to reach out to him. Anyway, so my friend Chris Schmidt, from who's formerly from Australia, now lives in Vegas, sent me wasn't Instagram, it was Facebook, and he said Hadi Shupin will never be at the Olympia, and then he sent me this screenshot from Donald Trump's Instagram, and it basically says, to Iranian President Rouhani, never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious.
Who's this? Who's that message from?
Trump wrote that on his Instagram.
The
real Donald Trump. So Chris Schmidt wrote, Hadi Shupin will never get into this country.
Well, when we first talked about it, that's what I who'd I say would never, because of who?
Trump. Yeah. Well, Trump. It's Trump's policy. I mean, that's the reason why he can't get it to begin with.
Yeah. So it's it's aggressive policy. I mean, aggressive meaning there's like no exceptions. You watch.
Unbelievable.
When Masoom Butt qualified for the Olympia, I don't know what year it was, 2012, 202. I went to see Susan Collins, my senator. I've met her a couple times.
Right.
She's got an office in town. I made an appointment, went in. I figured, great. I'll be able to. It's a small state. And
right. She has no clout probably anyway.
No, she has. She's a senator. She has more clout than like a mayor or Roger Stone.
Maybe not.
And she said this. She looked into it, sent me a letter, said, after further, blah 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 blah. There's nothing I can do at this time.
Well, wasn't he arrested though, Masoom Butt?
Well, yeah, he was. Yeah, he was arrested after. Yeah, he was arrested on like no charges of no charges.
Right, but even that, as soon as they look like a troublemaker, these guys, no one's going to get involved with, trying.
Well, everyone who's brown looks like a troublemaker to Trump, so.
Right. The ultimate like story would be like we get Hadi Shupin in, and then he causes problems. Then everyone will be like calling for our lynching.
No, something simple. After all this, right? The drama.
Yeah.
Misses the meeting.
Yeah.
Misses the athletes meeting.
Oh,
and so Trump allows him in, but Robin and Steve don't allow him in because he's 2 hours late for the meeting.
Yeah. Thank God Lee Thompson's gone, right?
But decides he doesn't want to go to the trade show.
Oh boy. We had a busy weekend in the amateur division. We had a little bit of pro action, but we'll talk about the amateur first because this is one of the biggest shows. It's funny. The NBC Masters Teen Collegiate Nationals.
I know exactly what you're going to say. Go ahead.
I think there was 1,400 people in the show.
That's what I knew you were going to say.
That's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
I want to open my mouth, and I don't want to get in trouble for it. So who's ever watching, who runs, the powers that be, and we know who they are. Don't get mad at me for saying this because I have to just say it, Chris, because it's a little bothersome. I think that the application fees for these shows, these national level shows, is too high. Okay, I'm not going to go crazy on them because I understand the concept. When we were competing, it was what did it cost to do a national level show? Was it even? I don't even know if it was $100.
I don't know.
It's gone up like $5 or $10 a year for the last 20 years. They're too high. It shouldn't be. Whatever it was, I think it was $250 at the show or $275, and the nationals are like $350, and USA is $325 per application. Why does it cost so much to enter these shows? They got enough people now to justify not having to charge that much because they'll still make their money. And I understand that it's very expensive to run these shows. Okay, the venue and the hotel, whatever they get, you got to fly all the judges and it's now that they have multiple day shows, you have to rent the venue for extra days, and I understand all that. But there's enough. When you have 1,400 people, okay, if they all paid $150, you'd still make a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still a ton of money to be made. It's still over $200,000 right there. So there's no reason to charge that much money. I really feel that it's not fair to the athletes. These I work with a lot of these guys. They don't have any money. They're like, this, and then they get for multiple classes. I have guys that they're doing classic and they're doing open and masters, and 3 different masters divisions because they have the age categories 35, 45. How about if you pay once, you can do multiple divisions, or maybe make it an extra $50. Mm-hmm. It's too expensive. All right. Having said that, the shows I'm going to put that to rest because I don't, like I said, I'm not looking to get in trouble. I'm not looking to start trouble. I just think consider it. Consider lowering the application fees. Okay. Now that we have so many people competing, you know what? You'll get even more people competing. You'll probably still make the same money. All right, I said it. Now let's move on to the show because the show is a terrific show. I had a lot of people in the show, and I had a lot of guys winning pro cards, and I'll congratulate them. But it was a great. I mean, this show is a monstrosity, Chris. 4 straight days, 4 days of competition, which I got to commend Gary Udit for because it's cheaper if you don't rent the venue for that many days, and you try to squeeze it into 2. But you know what? It was so much better for the competitors not have to sit backstage for 18 hours, and the judges got breaks. And I'm glad I didn't have to go to the show because it's 4 days of covering a show is not fun. But I will say this, it's much, much more manageable when you can spread a show like this over, 4 days as opposed to over 2 days. And I'll tell you, I was looking at the pictures on NPC News Online, which I commend them for putting up all those pictures. It had to be, they must have had 14 people tagging the show. It was a good show. It was great competition. I have guys. A lot of depth. Yeah, I have guys in the 60. Very good people. I know the masters, right? Yeah, I have guys I had one of my guys do the 60 and over. Larry Davis. He'll love the fact that I'm mentioning his name. And Larry was second in his weight class. But there's weight classes now. Now, when they first started 60 and over, my friend Charlie Arms, who you know, he won 2 years in a row. And they didn't even give the pro card the first year. They instituted the second year because they realized, you know what, we got to start. If we're giving pro cards for 50 and over, we should give them for 60 and over. Now they give them for 70 and over. But the depth of the 60 and over, when Charlie won it, there was like 3 guys in it, or 4 guys, because there just wasn't that many good 60-year-olds. Now, they got weight classes in the 60 and over. That's how many people they got. They got heavyweight, they got lightweight, light heavyweight, they got lightweight, middleweight. It's unbelievable. And they're filled, the classes. So I don't know if that means it's just more 60-year-old guys are competing now, or it means that the guys who were competing, when they were younger are now getting older and there's more people available. But
I was trying to figure out the same thing. Where does the depth? Because there's a lot of depth. Where's everybody coming from? Because I mean, the names are not familiar to me, but that doesn't mean that they're not really, really good. When I was flicking through the pictures at the NPC News, guys who were 5th place were tremendous. They would have been winning 4 years ago. Easy.
I'm so impressed with the guys. The 50-year-old guys are unbelievable. I compete. The scary part is I'm looking at the 50-year-olds and I'm like, yeah, I competed with him. I competed with him. I competed with him. That's our category.
So you know the names, Dave. Yeah. You remember.
I'm like, I beat him. Except if I don't look anything like this guy does now. I get crucified now. So I commend these guys. They're still around, and their bodies are still functioning. Congratulations to these guys. What a crew. They give a lot of pro cards out. But you know what? When you have a lot of guys, you can justify giving a lot of pro cards out. If you don't have a lot of guys and you hand out pro cards, then I'm not in favor of that. I had the guy win the lightweight class, Joe LaRusso. He got his pro card. My cop client, Nick Lopano, got his pro card in Classic. It was... If you see the list of bikini pro cards, literally, I'm going to count it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 pro cards in bikini. And I think there's about 19 and 20 in figure also. If you're looking for a pro card, this is a good show to do it at if you're over the age of 35, that's for sure.
Any good teenagers?
I'll tell you, I helped one of the teens who won his weight class, light heavyweight class. He lost the overall, unfortunately. It's funny. There wasn't that many teens in the open category like we used to. Remember, the teen nationals was always very competitive.
Teen light heavy. You helped the teen light heavy.
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
Sam Levins.
Yeah, he was really good.
Good shape.
Yeah, he's got a good future. But what happened now is because they have Classic, Chris, is that they're splitting.
Of course.
They're splitting up the, and teens don't have money. That's the other thing. These teen guys don't have a lot of money, so they're not going to do 2 classes, most of them, unless their parents are putting up the money, Well,
just to get out there as a teen.
I can only imagine if I asked my dad, hey, Dad, can I have $300? Can I have $450 to do 2 classes at the teen nationals? He would have been like, and I got to pay for the hotel and the airfare too. He goes, you out of your mind? I would have had to go shovel sidewalks all winter to save money for that.
The over 60 guy's off the hook, dude.
Right?
I mean, off the hook.
It's crazy, right? I'm so impressed with these guys. You can't, you can't write it better than this. I love it. I'm like looking at these guys. I'm like, man, I'd have trouble, beating this guy, when I was competing, some of these guys. I helped the guy also, Frank Pinto. He came second in the 70 and over, and I couldn't believe the level of the 70s. When I saw him in 70, I'm like, Frank, no, I don't think anyone will beat you, But you never know who's going to be there.
Oh God, I would never say it with these Masters people because you get some guy who's just peeled out of his. You know what I mean?
It was close,
You get somebody who's
these 70-year-old guys don't even look 70. That's the crazy thing. They look, they look like they're, I don't know, maybe in their 50s. I remember the first year they had the 70 and over. The guy looked like he was like,
70.
He looked like he was 100, He still had an impressive physique, but he looked old. Now these guys are they look great at 70. And I remember when I used to go cover the show all the time, that whenever these 70-year-olds come out, they play the well, actually it used to be when the 60s come out. They probably, now that was the 70s come out, they play it the Rocky music.
I didn't even, Dave, I was going to say, what do they play? The Rocky music? I was going to guess it. I should have opened my mouth.
It's terrific. The guy who won the over 70. If you look at his pecs, Bud Ravencroft. His pecs are like great. You know how like old people usually have the saggy boobs.
Yeah.
I'm getting saggy boobs now, and this guy got cross-striated pecs right across his nipples. It's crazy.
Over 70. Which guy?
Bud Ravenscroft.
Let's see. Yeah, he don't look like. Imagine he's. Yeah, he don't look 70.
And he's not huge, but he's ripped. I mean, and his skin looks great. I mean, I wish.
Yeah, skin.
Right?
His skin looks
good
really
skin.
good. Yeah.
Look at the shit we're talking about now. That's how you know we're getting old. We're like, man, this guy's got better skin than we do. Oh man. Anyway, I think that I love this show. It's a great show. I wish I could go to it because I really did enjoy that show. Everyone's so nice there. You know why? Because these guys are just happy to be competing.
They're doing it for the love, dude.
Oh,
yeah. They don't have pissing matches with each other on Twitter.
It's the best demographic too to sell to also because these guys all buy supplements and everything like that, and they have money. It's like a different show. It's the tone to this show is so good. And so much fun. It's like no one's people take it serious, but it's like really not serious. You know what I mean? Because like, I don't know. It's not like as intense like as when you go to the USA or the Nationals and these guys are like ready to fight each other backstage. Everyone is having a good time and they're all hanging out with each other and people become make friends when they're there. It's just not the same type of situation as you normally see at a show.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes. And it's funny because I'm not going to read off all the winners because there's just too many of them. I did that last time, and Ralph Koshia, who won the 16 over at the Team Universe, Actually, now they call it the NPC universe. They don't use the word team universe anymore. Someone had contacted me and said, "Oh, he's competing his whole life. He wanted you to mention him, and you didn't mention him." So I got him on an interview. This guy, he's been competing 40 years, Chris, since 1978.
Crazy.
And what a great interview I did with him. If anyone hasn't seen it, this guy's intense. He's one of these guys. You know how intense you were when you were bodybuilding? He's been like this for 40 years, Chris. For 40 years, he's been that intense.
Dude, that means like he's in love with bodybuilding.
Oh, he's still just as intense as he ever was. I mean, in terms of like diet and supplements and training, and I love it. I'm like, how do you do it? I said, how did you say so? Like, he's like, I don't know, it just never stopped. The first show he did in '78, John Kemper won the overall. That tells you how long ago it was. John Kemper won it. May he rest in peace. It's a good one, though. Did you see the latest Big Ramy posing footage? Beta Badai now sends all the latest posing video to Sid. Sid forwards it to me, and I usually do some kind of a little analysis of it. Did you watch it on the?
Yeah, I saw it.
What'd you think of him?
I thought he looked good. I don't think it's like
8 weeks out, he's pretty good.
Huh?
I think for 8 weeks out, he's good.
Yeah, I think he looks good.
Although someone pointed out that he had an abscess on his glutes. I didn't catch it.
Yeah. I mean, he looked good. I don't think, I think he's in a good position. I think he's, of course he's big, but...
Does he have the biggest glute muscles in, like, the history of bodybuilding? It's like they're, like, huge.
Well, everything's big, so
I
of
know.
course the glute's going to be big.
They're really big, yeah.
I don't know. What was your analysis of it?
I thought he was in good condition now. That doesn't
Me too.
I think that, like you said, at 8 weeks out, this is a good look for him. Now, hopefully, they won't feed him up from here and try to make him bigger, I think that if he continues to come down from this point on, he could be really, really dangerous, to Phil. He's got there's something unusual about his physique. I think that's the best way to put it. He's so big everywhere that I don't know. It's like he doesn't look like anyone else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the best way I could. He almost has, and he's way better than Greg Kovacs, but he's almost very Greg Kovacian to me. He's got just large, big muscles that don't look like anything I've ever seen from anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they're not Ronnie Coleman-ish round type.
No.
Dense, like, looking muscles.
No. Put it this way. How would Coleman look 8 weeks out?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably wacky, but I don't. The point is, he doesn't look like any other body I've ever seen. So I think that's what makes it hard to judge this guy. But if he comes in ridiculously shredded, I don't think you can deny this guy, can you? I mean, can Phil beat him if he's at his best? That's the question.
Phil would have a lot of trouble, potentially.
With him.
That said, Phil has, without a shadow of a doubt, the most amount of polish, which is his calling card the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And polish means detailed muscle that's full and doesn't look flat and actually expands and contracts when he flexes it. Because a lot of people, they hit a side chest and nothing happens. They look great getting into it. They look great in it, but nothing really happened.
Sure, yeah.
When Phil gets into, let's say, a side chest, you see a lot more detail everywhere. Things like pop.
I agree. Speaking of Phil, he did, obviously, I didn't know this. We did the show last week. We were both carrying on about how it's terrible that Phil can't interview with anyone, and I don't understand what this exclusivity is about anymore. There's no magazines. Why is there exclusivity? Phil should be promoting the Olympia. And we record on Sunday, and then of course, Monday morning, I see an interview go up that he did with Muscular Development, Ron Harris over there. And I found out that he hasn't been under contract with anyone for 2 months. Now, how we're supposed to know this if he doesn't tell anyone, I don't know. But manager Matt, texted me that. I'm sure he did the same thing for you. I said, Matt, how am I supposed to know that this guy doesn't have a contract if no one tells me? I don't know what the deal is. I don't want to, put him in an awkward situation, asking him to do an interview with him if I know that he's under contract or I think he's under contract. So we reached out to Phil, and I'm going to hopefully facilitate this interview at some point in the future. Working on questions right now, and I think I'm looking forward to it. I think that I can do a good job with Phil. I think I could bring another side of him out and ask some questions that people haven't really asked him before. Because we know what the normal questions are, the softball questions, that everyone, it's pretty simple to talk about. The bubble gut, the this, the that, last year, the Louis Marco. I'm kind of like, there's nothing really, that doesn't interest me. I want to know what makes Phil Heath tick. That's really the questions I want to know. And unfortunately, I don't usually ask questions based on what I think people want to hear. I ask questions what I want to hear, which is usually what people want to hear. So
Phil would enjoy like breaking down the NBA Finals as much as he would about
exactly
right.
Yeah, of course.
He'd show as much, probably more enthusiasm for that than like, what do you think of Dexter, Ramey, and Roden, who have all been second for the last 3 years?
Yeah. Well, we'll see if that happens. You never know. I don't know if we talked. Did we talk about Juliana Malacarni retiring?
We did talk about it last week. We briefly touched on it, and
we're going to be getting her on the show this week. I hope, if not this week, next week. She was on vacation. It's always good when you make a big announcement to go on vacation, so no one could get to you. I think that's always the best thing to do, right? Make the big announcement and then leave and shut your phone off. Oh my God. I got to find out what's going on with her. I have a feeling she's not done competing, but maybe, obviously this year she's not competing. But who knows? Maybe she's burnt out. She's been doing it a long time. She's been doing it a very long time, so I don't blame her. I did a good interview with, I know you know him pretty well, Steve Cardillo, too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I love Steve. Steve's one of the real good guys. He knows the history of the sport. He's been around since the beginning, And I'll never forget the original Cardillo belt ads with Paul DeMeo in it. Remember? Mm-hmm. The Quadzilla ads?
Yeah.
He's still making belts. The guy.
He's still making them. Makes it for everybody.
There's very few people who make belts anymore. He has no competition. No one can keep up with him. If anyone who's out there who has a custom belt, 99% chance it came from Steve Cardillo. And he's giving away he made these a couple years ago. He made these. I think there was 3 of them. 3 species nutrition belts. They were like these electra green with the black species logo, species in black. And I'm trying to think who got 2 of those belts. He gave them to me. I think I gave them away for Bros vs. Pros or something like that. And there's one left. I see it when we did the interview. It's hanging in his store there. And I think he's going to give it away if you post on his Instagram why you want the belt, if it's a good story. So if anyone wants that belt. He's made belts for all the celebrities. The Rock, Hulk
That's
Hogan.
what I mean. He's made them for everybody. Yeah. Actors and you name it.
He's doing airbrush, like original art ones now, like for some of these like movie stars, like The Rock. Like The Rock wanted his tattoo on the belt. And so Steve's got this guy who will like custom spray or paint on the belt. It's actually, it's probably like more of a piece of artwork. The tattoo, along with the word The Rock, and it's great. I always said that weight belts are the greatest like canvas, like to put your message out there, and I think that's what Steve really capitalized on. Because let's face it, I mean, the belt, you wear your belt every day. If you think about these guys who just wear these different T-shirts with slogans. You could wear if you had like 5 different belts with different moods you're in or different messages you want to get across. You can kind of do it. I mean, it's pretty cool. Most people when they turn pro, they get the IFBB Pro on there, on their belts, or IFBB Pro, whatever their name is or their nickname. Sometimes they make up their own nickname to put on there. But yeah, they're nice.
Yeah, him and Paul DeMeo were very tight, and him and Jose are good friends. Very good friends.
Yeah, very good friends.
Jose talks very highly of him. Everyone does. He's one of these guys who's been around forever in the sport, and everybody says something good about Steve Cardillo.
You'd love his
He wanted
house.
he wanted to make me a belt, but I said I don't even. What am I going to do with it?
Let's get the technician on there.
Yeah, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to give me one.
You should. Just hang it on
So
your
what
wall.
am I going to do with it?
Hang it in the backdrop. So when we do all the TV programs, you can add something.
Oh,
That
my
wall is
God,
so
my-
empty. It's got those 2 little pictures on there. You got.
I might look at it and get Midlife Crisis or something, or
Maybe it'll
give it to my
inspire
son
you
when
to
he
go-
leaves in
Yeah,
4 years.
There you go. There you go. The real technician. Get on that. That on there. I'll tell you one thing. You'd love Steve Cardillo's house. If you watch that interview I did with him, there's some footage we show from there. He does these water workouts. He's got this big dock he built. He lives on the water. He's got this big dock, and he has all these pieces of weight training equipment out there. And he
Well, I've seen a video. There's a
Have you seen
video
that?
floating around of him and Jose like lifting with those like weird.
Yeah, and he's got like water contraptions where as you lift, the water pours out of the. He's got like these big jugs like on the end of the barbell. They're like your weights. So you start out, it's really heavy, and then as the water is pouring out while you're doing the set, it gets lighter and lighter. So you can do it. You know, he's got all these kooky things he does. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting actually, but I don't even care about the weight equipment. I love the dock he's got there. It's this huge dock outside this nice house. He's obviously got a real great setup. And he said he keeps expanding the dock. It's like he owns the whole. It's like a marina he built for himself there. It's unbelievable.
I wonder where it is in Mass.
Yeah, you got to find out. He mentions it in the interview someplace, but you'll probably know. I was very impressed. He's got a nice little setup there. It's probably beautiful in the summer. It's probably freezing to death in the winter. But he goes out there in the winter and trains too. I've seen him. All bundled up with jackets and stuff like that. He says it kind of like wakes him up. It really gives him like a surge of energy to train out there. And I'll tell you, when I was in jail for my 5-month little stint I did, they had the weight pit was outside, and I trained outside. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more invigorating than training outside. And it's great because when the seasons change, you get winter, you get freezing cold, you get the summer, it's super hot, and then in between, it's usually nice. I loved it.
I told you, sir, how Serge Urbret used to train, right? When he was in Paris, he'd do a set.
You'd walk outside.
And then he'd step outside the gym in a tank top and shorts. And it'd be freezing. And he'd stay out there until he started to shiver.
Heat shock proteins.
And he would come back in, and he would do another set. And he claimed, which he was right, that shivering would cause his metabolism to pick up. And then he'd come in and do another set, and then go out and freeze, come back in.
Him and Blackman. Too bad Serge Urbret died. Blackman could have teamed up with him for a supplement line.
No carbs for 100 days, though.
I wonder what part of your body has to get cold for you to actually initiate the shivering response. Maybe you can just put like a helmet on that's freezing cold, and it'll.
Yeah, like a little thermostat,
Yeah,
right?
and you can
That's
just
a good question. What part of your body?
Does it have to be the whole thing? Maybe it's just your head. Is it? Yeah. What activates the heat shock proteins? Now you sent me a picture just now. You texted me a picture of Sergio
that's
Urbret
for you.
Jr.
That's for you.
He looked really good.
Yeah.
Pretty intense. Assuming he's doing the Olympia.
No, he's not qualified. He's doing Tampa.
Oh, he's got to do Tampa first. I forgot about that. That he came in second.
I'm going down for it.
Oh, you are?
Get me
perfect.
out of the house, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you know what? Then that's even better because you know who John Hansen contacted me. He wanted to know if I needed any help doing some coverage. Well, maybe you and him could do some interviews like that together. Some wrap-ups.
I got Henry Pierre Ono doing the Classic, too.
Oh, yeah. He got ripped
which
off
I
of
have
the
no
last
problem saying. I think that might have been the debauchery of the year, his placing up in, I think, my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I thought he looked really good up there at that Vancouver show.
Well, there he is. I just sent you a picture, and you tell me if that's not a classic, dude.
I'm telling you, I love the Sergio picture. The Sergio picture's great. Great front double bicep. He really looks like his dad there.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Henry Pierre Ono, I sent you a picture of him. He looks like his dad as well.
I thought that was the Sergio Urbret you just sent me.
Yeah, I said classic, right?
Yeah, he's good. He's good. I like the old black and white picture too. That's what I thought. I thought you sent me Sergio Urbret at first because it looked a little like and it was black and white. I'm like, oh, it's Sergio Urbret. Nope, it's Henry Pierre now. So they had this show out in Spain. They're holding a lot of pro shows in Spain. It's called
Was it Spain or Portugal?
No, that Portugal was 2 weeks ago. This was Spain. It's called the IFBB Big Man Weekend. I like that. The Big Man show. I wonder if it has a bit. It probably sounds better in Spanish, don't you think?
Yeah,
it probably
doesn't translate well.
It's probably a much more machismo word in Spanish, but it translates in English to the IFBB Big Man Weekend, which is kind of like a little, almost dare I say, politically incorrect, a little gay sounding, but I liked it. Went down in Buendia, Spain. Where is that? Buendia, Spain. It's probably probably the south of Spain. And I know I'm going to have a million people who are going to just be texting me and telling me, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Dave.
You don't know your geography.
Yeah. I really
Who
don't
on
know.
the show?
I'm very ignorant. I don't know anything about Spain, to be honest with you, except Barcelona. I've been there 3-4 times. Iain Valliere, who we've been talking about all year, as being, the sleeper guy in the open division. A lot of people, I thought he probably should have been higher at the last show he did. He comes in here and he wins unanimously, beating a good lineup. We'll talk about the other people in a minute. How good is Iain Valliere, Chris, in your mind, and where does he stack up among the rest of the elite bodybuilders in the open pro division?
He is...
By the way, we have pictures at rxmuscle.com if you want to look at these pictures. We do have contests.
I think I've said it already on the show that I think that if he picks the right show, he can win it because he's got size, he's got condition, he's got height, he's got width. But he keeps picking shows where, he's going up against people with maybe a little bit more flow, more roundness to the pecs. Less tall, which makes him look more filled out.
Yeah.
So I think for him, it was just a matter of picking a show where, where he was capable of winning based on his physique, where the show was, I don't want to say, less competitive, but actually that's really what it is.
So where do you see him stacking up once he hits the Olympia, in 8 weeks?
At the Olympia, it's the Olympia. He's not going to do anything in the Olympia.
Yeah, he's not.
It'd be a great experience for him because he's young. It'd be a great experience for him because he's qualified. It'd be a great experience for him because, he's going to have to go against the Ramy types. And, I don't know the guy, but he's not afraid to compete.
Sure.
And that's the I don't know if it's a lesson or a good story of that win or his win is that you have to compete to win. There's a lot of people who quote, I know a lot of people over the last 10 years who do this to me. I should have done that show. I could have won it. And I just say, yeah. Or they say, I'm not saying they could have beaten Iain Valliere, like going into this show. I'm talking just different shows in the past where people... 212 bodybuilders,
Cedric
open
McMillan,
bodybuilders.
the story of his life.
Well, there's outside of Cedric, there's lots of people. I know lots of people, not lots, but a small handful who could have won multiple shows or just won other shows had they just done it.
Troy Alves was the champion of picking the right show and winning it every single year.
Won lots of
qualified for
shows.
the Olympia, right?
Yeah, I think he won 8 open bodybuilding shows.
Open, not 212. Yeah.
And he was usually 217. Yeah. 219. He was 219 usually. 217.
Because he wasn't afraid to compete. That's why.
Yeah. And
you can give him 4 weeks notice to do the show too.
So.
Well, I was pretty impressed with Iain. I was also very impressed, Chris, and I know I've sent you the pictures from the show. By the way, thank you for the Pierre Lamley for sending.
Yeah, I thought Iain looked great too, and I thought he's looked great all year long.
But
I thought he looked great in Indiana.
Igor Ilis from Slovakia placed second here by 1 point, I believe. And I was very impressed with him. This guy's got a ridiculous amount of muscle on his body.
Yeah, he's thick as can be.
He doesn't have the smallest waistline, but he's dense. Look at those arms.
Big legs, big arms.
Legs and glutes, and his back shots are pretty powerful. I think he's going to be a future big name guy. I really do. I think that we're going to see a lot from this guy. Assuming he doesn't try to get too much bigger, because I could definitely see him ruining his physique if he does that. He doesn't really need much more size. Maybe just refinement, some help posing. I was very impressed. I was also impressed that almost everyone in the top 5 in this show were ultra conditioned, because we haven't seen a lot of conditioning, graininess, Chris, in the open division this year. That's been the knock against it.
Well, the
open
Vancouver
guys
show
are
was
just big
no,
and
the
round.
Vancouver show. People were talking about people having tremendous condition. Top 5.
Yeah, but these are guys that are not household names, and they're crazy shredded. I mean, this guy Igor guy, and of course our good friend Roman Fritz was probably the hardest guy in the whole show. Maybe to his detriment, but yeah, because he probably could have been a lot more full. And I know Roman listens to the show, and I know Roman knows his biggest problem is he doesn't eat enough food, because he never thinks he's going to be hard enough. And Roman is probably in better shape off season than most of these guys are when they compete on stage. So he goes to a little
sent me off-season pictures once, and I thought this was like 4 days out for some people.
Yeah, he needs 4 weeks to be in shape. There's nothing wrong with that. By the way, when I was competing the last 3 years of my career, I used to diet for 4 weeks. I'm not kidding. 4 weeks out from the show, I would start my diet, and the second day of the diet.
What did you do? Cut out McDonald's?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the second day of the show, of the diet, I would feel like I was dieting for 18 weeks already. Because when you're lean, it doesn't matter. As soon as you get to that lean level, you feel just as bad. It's like you just started out feeling horrendous. When you have body fat, you start dieting, you don't feel that bad because you got some reserves to go on. So Roman might need to be doing 4 to 6 week diets. I would put a little bit of cardio in, not a lot, and maybe 20 minutes, and I would cut back my food, a little bit. Did you hear that? My son's calling you.
My goodness! Shut the show down.
We have to do a pause here. We'll pause while let me see if my son quiets down. This is the challenge of being a parent. Dad. All right, hold on, Chris. So yeah, I didn't really diet that long, Chris, back in the day. But Roman's got to come to grips with the fact that he just doesn't need to diet that long, and over dieting is not helping him. Now, this guy Andrea Muzzi from Italy. I was impressed with him too. Really good.
Right?
I think
Great
he's
condition.
potential. Right? Good conditioning.
Very good.
Anytime I see a guy who's crazy conditioned on stage, I'm impressed. And I got to tell you, it just goes to show you conditioning, really places you high, because here's a guy we never even heard of, and obviously his conditioning is what landed him in this top 5 in this competition. So that's a message I'm sending. The judges are sending to all these people, because it wasn't 5 guys in the show. There was a lot of guys in the line. There was 16 guys in the lineup. So, to make top 5 here, it wasn't easy. So the most conditioned guys were the guys in the top 5. Yeah. And then you got that Mohammed Shaban from Kuwait, who's 5th, who's also really impressive here. So I thought it was a good top 5 guys here. And I think that if anyone has a take-home message from this, it's show up in shape. There was also the pro bikini, on the other hand, was terrible because it was 4 girls in the show. Diana Solomon won from Hungary. Congratulations to her. And so that was the first rendition of the Big Man Weekend. Big Man. I went to elementary school with a kid by the name of Scott Bigman. Spelled the same way, Big Man. He was a good soccer player, big kid. It's always good when your last name's Bigman to be like over 6 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you
tease you.
Yeah, you can't. Right, exactly. Imagine if you're like really short. Obviously, I always think about how these names came about. Like in the beginning, like when people were first naming them each other, and obviously everyone makes up their first name, but at some point people made up their last names too, right? And it probably was based on what you did. If you were a big guy, there was probably the big man. This kid Scott Bigman, probably his relatives were giants or something like that, and so they called him hey, Big Man, get over here, And I don't know where my name came from. I think Palumbo means peace or something like that, or the pigeon in Italian, from what I understand. So maybe my relatives were pigeon breeders, for all I know.
Well, aceto means vinegar.
Yeah, you guys were vinegar makers. You probably grew grapes, and your relatives were probably horrible at making wine, and they turned it to all the vinegar by accident. So they said, we need vinegar. Well, you guys will be the vinegar makers. So they said, aceto. Bring us the vinegar. We have to preserve some pickles or whatever they were making back in the day. That's the Jews. What are the Italians? What do the Italians pickle? I don't even know.
I don't know. Probably balsamic vinegar for salads or
maybe. Who knows?
Right? Could be.
Yeah. Like what? Like let's think of some other good names. Like I don't even know.
Schwarzenegger.
He was black. They probably like Schwarzenegger doesn't it mean black man?
I think it does, right?
Yeah. Jeremy Buendia. Buendia doesn't that mean good?
Ask Boston Lloyd, see what he says.
Man.
Does Boston Lloyd have tapes like Trump's ex-lawyer?
Yeah, he's got plenty of evidence.
He doesn't need it. He's got his photographic memory.
Yeah, he's got
He may have the most photographic memory outside of NASA in the sport of bodybuilding.
Let's just hope he doesn't wind up the same way NASA does. I will say one thing. Boston Lloyd's got one cute little kid. His little baby is really cute. Everyone who's having babies now, they're all growing so fast. It's crazy. My daughter is 7 months old now. Just turned 7 months, and she's almost walking already. My son was way. I think girls in general tend to develop quicker than boys, but she's like
physically, you mean, or
yeah, physically and emotionally and mentally actually too. I think boys are just like a little behind the girls. I don't know what it is. Maybe all the testosterone in their body just kind of distracts them from from developing. I don't know what it is. I haven't come up with my theories yet. Child development theories. I don't think my kids are old enough to really have them. I will have them at some point. I'll have my own child development theories.
I told my 4-year-old today at dinner if he didn't eat his salmon, his brain would not grow.
There you go. That's good. I would use the same thing on him probably.
And he would not eat it. He deferred to eating vegetables. Can I eat vegetables? Will that make my brain go?
That's funny. Yeah, I don't know what age the kids get to where they don't eat. My son will eat anything pretty much right now. I don't know if that's going to change as he gets older because kids' taste buds change. I noticed my taste buds have changed over the years. I'm eating stuff now that I never would have eaten 20 years ago. My taste buds are it's like I'm becoming, we've talked about this before, but becoming our parents. I'm starting to eat like my dad eats. I'm blessed to have a little glass of wine every night with dinner. That's probably just to deal with the stress of being a parent. But
yeah, I just going to say that's just because you have 2 kids instead of 1.
And, I was eating green olives, which I always hated my whole life.
Oh, I love
my father did those. But now I'm not allowed to eat them because garlic breath, as Italians, we emanate our spices through our skin. Amanda claims I smell like terrible. The garlic that comes out of my skin is terrible, and I wouldn't presume to argue with her because I do notice that my skin will release whatever I'm eating, onions, garlic, that kind of stuff. So I try to just limit it so that I'm not offensive to her, when I'm walking around the house. I don't want to be offensive to my wife. That's probably not a good way to have a good marriage. So I'm willing to give up my green olives, for... You
don't notice the smell of garlic, and she does.
You can always taste it a little bit, in your mouth, but no one can smell you as much as the next person. And she's got a very...
Of course.
I always thought I had a good sense of smell because people always irritated that I would smell everything. And she's way, way more... her sense of smell is way more acute than mine, which also is one of the reasons why I think I might be getting like Alzheimer's. That's one of the first things to go, your sense of smell. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
You can't smell things as good. That's one. So it's terrible to be around someone who's got dementia.
There's a correlation. Is that true, or are you just making that up?
No, I'm not making it up. There's a direct correlation. They said that you can't smell certain things. You can Google it. You'll see. And
that's funny. You know what? I can't smell anything.
You and I'm
dead serious.
We're going to wind up in a fucking loony bin, the two of
us. I'm dead serious. If you were in my house, people will say, "You smell that?" and they get mad. I said, "No, I can't smell it."
That's the first signs, yeah.
I can't smell it. I can't hear it. And now with glasses, I can't see it.
Yeah, I can't see anything either. So my senses are being dulled. So that even makes me think that I'm really losing my mind because vision is a huge sense, and I can't see anything up close anymore. I can see distances, but I can't see close. I need glasses. So I have contact lenses. This is the irony. I have contact lenses in my eyes, and I have to wear reading glasses, really, if I want to read something close. That's what happens when you hit 50. When I hit 30, I started losing my hair. When I hit 40, I don't know what happened at 40. What happened at 40?
I have my hair. I just can't smell, see, or hear anything.
That's all right, but you look good. That's my dad's famous statement is, I said, but at least you look good. My father's famous statement is that I look great. I'm falling apart though. So I took a picture of him today while he was laying on his deathbed, and I'm basically like, Dad, you look pretty damn good. I got to tell you. He's like, and he could barely speak. I show him the picture. He's like, yeah. He agreed with me that he looked good. He's so vain, my father. He's so vain. Matter of fact, in the hospital when he was having some really bad days when I thought he wasn't even going to make it to where he is today. The only thing he responded to, there was a really pretty good looking nurse that was working in the hospital, and when she would come in and want to feed my dad, he all of a sudden perked up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
God,
that's.
It was just it was probably like a unconscious perking up, because I don't think he really was even aware of what was going on. But all of a sudden he was eating well for her, and and responding to her, and no one else he was responding to. I was putting my eyes 3 inches from his eyes, and I was I can get a response. That was the only way I would get a response from him. But she just had to come in there and feed him, and he was he was loving it. Let me see what else took place this past weekend here. We had the Los Angeles. Didn't the Los Angeles Championships used to have a pro open division? Or am I making that up? The Cal has one. I thought the LA Championships did too. I think they
so.
They must have changed it.
The LA Amateur Show. Do you remember how competitive that used to be? I know.
It used to be crazy.
That was like a step away from the Nationals.
Yeah. Well, that's because, Chris, that's because everyone moved out to California to be professional bodybuilders. So they all did all the local shows out there. Yeah. Michelle Pinto won the pro figure out there. She's from Brazil. A lot of Brazilians. Melissa Bumstead, second place. Chris Bumstead's sister. She's got a great physique. I always wondered why she didn't go to women's physique, because she's got Chris's physique. I mean, basically, Chris Bumstead and his sister got the same exact physique. They're both tall. They've got these crazy structures. She likes figure, though. She likes figure. She was at the Olympia last year. I still think she should do women's physique. I really like her physique. I think she'd be great at it, but maybe she doesn't want to get that big. I think she's actually big enough, but who knows? What do I know? Third place, Julie Mayo. She's always in there. She's been doing it for many, many years. So congratulations to those ladies at the LA Championships. And the only other show of the weekend was the Battle in the Desert. Let's see who won that show. There was a pro men's physique there. And Anthony Woods took that title. Long Wu from China, second. And Daniel Amans from College Station, third. Long Wu, I think, is the only real, men's physique pro that I know of from China.
I think you're right.
They got some good. I should say the Koreans. The Koreans got the good 212 guys. I'm surprised we don't see more Chinese athletes. Think about it. They got 2 billion people there.
I was thinking that the other day, Dave. How's that?
I just think once China basically relinquishes control of all their athletes and lets them really, I guess, spread their wings, so to speak, I think we're going to see a lot more Chinese athletes. I really do. Just like you said, because of the sheer numbers. India too. We're going to start seeing some really great Indian bodybuilders. I work with a lot of these Indian guys, and I'm telling you, it was such a corrupt system there that you couldn't get pro cards there. They didn't have any pro qualifiers. Now that we've opened up, we got rid of Raphael, and we've opened up the ability for people to hold pro qualifiers in India. We're going to see some great Indian bodybuilders. I mean, there's no reason why Amit Roy had to come all the way from India to the United States, get married, and then qualify. It was the most cockamamie way he had to turn pro. Now, people in India, there's pro qualifiers. Our good friend Sharu holds pro qualifying events, and there's one coming up pretty soon. So we're going to see the landscape, I believe, in the in some of these men's divisions, and eventually the women's divisions completely change because you're going to get some really great talent from Asia that we never had before because they were restricted. If we can get these people from the Middle East over here, from Iran too, I got to give Kamali credit. King Kamali predicted it. He said these guys
he
from
did
Iran
predict
were
it.
amazing.
He predicted it, because he said this. You know the quote, right? Say it. I know what you're going to say.
You say it.
He said the Hardy Opens are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
He used that term, a dime a dozen.
He said there's better.
And it turns out he kind of is a dime. I mean, there's just a lot of good Iranian bodybuilders.
Yeah. Good genetics over there.
Tremendous.
And you know what the difference is? When the country actually
Supports
embraces and supports the sport, like bodybuilding in these Middle Eastern countries, the guys get better because they're not like running around scared like, oh my God, I'm going to be arrested. They're like, the fucking government's paying me, giving me a house and paying me a salary to be the best bodybuilder I can be. Imagine if we had that in this country. How good would you the talent would be unbelievable if they actually embraced bodybuilding as a major sport here, and they actually didn't try to stick us in jail for being bodybuilders and using anabolic steroids. That the guys would be unbelievable. There would be 25 Ronnie Colemans out there, all in the lineup. That would be your Olympia lineup. You'd have 4 Ronnie Colemans, 5 Ronnie Colemans competing against each other.
Yeah, I think it was I think it was Dusty Hanshaw who played a joke on a lady when he won the North Americans, or his class at the North Americans, and she said, "Wow, you won I think it was Dusty. You won the North Americans, and maybe someone won the Nationals." And they said, "Yeah." And they said, "What do you win for that?" And they said, "Oh, the government gives me $250,000 a year if I can just work out." And they said, "Wow."
Yeah, what's his name? Kamal El-Gargani there, who's going to be doing the 212 Olympia. This guy got paid more money from over his course of his life, right? From Qatar.
He was a quote amateur at a pro at a higher than pro level salary. What was he making? He told you.
It was ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They were giving.
That's how he got the money to open gyms, like not little hole in walls, but gyms with no partners.
Yeah, no. Tremendous. Maybe one of these days our country will lighten up a little bit. I'd love to see. Wouldn't you love to see some of these professional athletes that are doing like football and they're doing like some of these other sports because they can make money there, actually using their genetics to see what their physique development could look like? My God, I can't even imagine what the physiques would look like if it was something that you could actually make money doing.
Well, I mean, passion trumps money too. I mean, a lot of people.
It does, but you know what? Money doesn't hurt. Money's a very good driving force for guys that have great genetic abilities.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm sure. Okay. Look, there's guys that would love to probably be professional bodybuilders, but they're like, you know what? I could throw a football, 100 yards, and
well, I mean, it's consideration,
they're willing to pay me $20 million a year to do that. So. They had a pro bikini, pro figure division. Oh no, pro bikini, division also at this Battle of the Desert. And I got to tell you, this Ashley Kaltwasser is on a roll. She's won 3 shows since her comeback. She's obviously a former Olympia champ in bikini, and she'll be going up against Angelica Teixeira this year. And this might be one of the most anticipated battles in the bikini division because we haven't seen 2 Olympia champs really squaring off against each other. It seems like every year there's like a new bikini champ, so this will be pretty interesting to see what happens. Francesca Lauren was second in this show. India Paulino coming back, after giving birth very recently, coming in third. This is, I believe, her second or third show, and she's placed, I think, top 3 in all of them. So, who said having a baby is a death warrant to your physique, because India Paulino is looking great as ever. So congratulations to those ladies. And that was it. That was all the action in the IFBB this past weekend. But I will say this, Chris. The schedule's heating up with 8 weeks to go to the Mr. Olympia competition now. We're going to start getting a lot of I think a lot of exciting stuff's going to start happening now. People are going to really start, focusing on who's going to win this Olympia. And the question is, can Phil Heath score number 8? I mean, put himself in the rarefied air of guys like Ronnie Coleman, Lee Haney. He's already tied Arnold's, right? 7 Olympias. Who would have thought when Phil first won the Olympia that he was going to win this many? The only person who would probably have said that was Jay Cutler, right? Jay said he was going to win 10, right?
Let's just end the show, dude, because I knew you were going to say that too. I knew you were going to follow that with. The only one who would predict that would be Jay.
Jay's been saying it all along. Every time I ask him, he said he's going to win 10. Yeah.
Jay sent me an email picture of the day he met Phil.
Was that when he won the Colorado?
No, he was just Jay went out to guest pose somewhere
at the Colorado, I believe, right? And then Phil.
Yeah, and he said I met it. Jay would remember this too. He said I met a kid who just started training, and he's a combo of Wheeler and LeBron.
Yeah, he's right. He was right. Well, one of the questions I want to ask Phil is what year does he think he was his best? What would you say? And I know what you're going to say because we've already discussed this, but
the year his best look was at the Chereau, without a doubt, and I'm sure he would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw that one. I don't think I was there. You were there, right?
Yeah.
What was it? What about the year? You remember we were talking about how great he looked at that 2010 Arnold Classic where Kai Green won. I thought he should have won that show.
Yeah,
remember how great he was at that show?
He was. He had paper thin skin. Absolutely paper thin skin for that show.
And he was. I mean,
round as a house, small waist,
and his structure was just. He looked good. I think, look, we say this all the time, and you know what? I'm probably guilty of it too. We all, isn't it true? Even Ronnie too. We get too big.
Jay is the quote machine. Jay said somewhere a long time ago, or he told me, we were all better smaller. That's a quote from Jay. We were all better smaller.
Because we lose touch. We always think we got to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and bigger is better. And bigger does look better in tank tops in the gym, but not necessarily on stage. So, and then again, maybe that's just what happens. Maybe you can't even stop it. You know what I mean? Maybe if you try to not get big, you couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just keep training and doing what you're doing and taking the supplements, maybe that's just what happens. I don't know. Unless you're pulling like a Levroni and just not training half the year, you know what I mean, and not taking anything. That maybe that you can hold yourself back that way.
But he was, Levroni's best was when he won the New York Pro.
Yeah, and play second at the Olympia, right?
Period. I mean, he had a lot of good years, but those years, those 2 shows were when he was at his best.
Yeah,
and I think I asked him, I think he was 228 when he won that New York Pro.
Oh, really? That's it? Wow. He looked great when he placed second at that Olympia and behind Dorian that year, too.
Crazy that year.
That was right after the Night of Champions, so. You know what it is? His legs were never... I don't know if he had an injury or he just didn't train them.
He had crazy legs when he won the New York Pro. Crazy.
Big legs. And
they were like his best body part.
Yeah. No one really remembers Levroni when he had huge legs because his legs were never great after that. I don't know if he just didn't train them, or if he had an injury, but his legs was so huge that in 1990, I've told the story a million times. In 1994, I was competing at the NPC Suburban Championships, and he was it was 92, 92, and he was guest posing there, and his legs were so big that he was wearing these. I don't even know where he got these pair of pants from. The pants was so big that the legs of the pants were as big as the waist. And I remember he couldn't even get his pants off on it. He had someone helping him take his clothes off. And when he took the pants off, I couldn't believe how big his legs were. They were huge. Yeah. And I was just like, holy shit. This guy is enormous. He would never be that big again. This was in the off season. He was off season. He never, after those first couple of wins he had in the pros, he never got big. He always stopped training in the off season, and I think it was because after he injured that pec muscle, remember he tore his pec, he said he was afraid to train after that. He wouldn't want to push himself all year round because he was afraid he was going to tear something else. But man, he had some freaking wheels from hell, really, very impressive. Very, very impressive. All right, well, Chris, people seem to be enjoying our banter lately. I don't know why, but this is, like I said, the exciting part of the season coming up. We got we get the USA Championships this weekend, right?
That's right. Oh my goodness, how's crazy sad?
That was a show I used to love to
talk
go
about
to.
it.
Yeah, well,
Huh?
I don't even know who's in it because God forbid they put out in a competitor sheet or something like that, you know. But obviously, we're going to be getting some new pros this weekend at that show as well in the open division, and that's always a great show. I used to love to go to that show, to be honest with you. But then, they John Lindsay, who's I consider a very good friend, made it too hard. You know, the jumping through hoops. I don't want to go to these shows where I got to jump through hoops. Plus, there's 1,000 people in the show. It's too hard to
Well,
cover.
it's a marathon show.
Yeah, it's one of these long shows. But I love to see.
It's a great show to be at, though.
Yeah, I love to interview the winners of these shows because Mr. USA is still right. Isn't that like a great title? Say you're Mr.
I think
USA.
it's a tremendous title.
And National Champ is great, NPC National Champ, but I think Mr. USA just sounds better. I don't know why. It's like the old Mr. America title. Isn't that a great title, I'm Mr. America?
Great title. I think they should buy it back from whoever owns it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Even though it's a little, it's less known than, let's say, when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, but if they made it
Title.
popular again, wouldn't that be just great on Mr. America? I mean, that's the open men's, the greatest men's amateur bodybuilder in the world should be Mr. America. I mean, I remember all the guys who would win the Mr. America, they would get they would get Cardillo belts with Mr. America on it, right?
Yeah.
Mahalik opened the gym Mr. America's, because he was Mr. America.
That's right. That's what he could. Where was it? What was the name of the town?
It was, I think was it in Hicksville? It was in Long Island, right by my house.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, I never trained there. I never saw the gym ever. I was before my time. But I heard it was the old gym with paneling on it. Remember when people used to put paneling on their walls?
Oh, of course. Of course. I still see paneling around.
Yeah, it'll probably make a comeback, I'm sure.
Paneling.
No one knows what we're talking about, probably.
No,
right?
that's why I'm saying paneling. People won't know what it is.
Well, they'll know.
I don't even have to describe it.
I'll tell you how you can describe it so everyone knows what we're talking about. If you watch the movie Pumping Iron and you remember the gym Louis Ferrigno was training at in Brooklyn,
It was all paneled.
it was all paneling on that was paneling.
Well, why did people panel to like update their places?
It looked
and
good.
Stuff?
It was like wood. It was like wood you were putting wood planks on the wall. It was like almost like how you put down a wood floor. It was like wood on your walls. That was like cool. And think about it, the whole 70s was paneling because then they had the station wagons with the paneling on it, right? Remember the station wagons?
Yeah, that's so funny, Dave. They had it right on the outside of the.
And it was like the cool thing to do to have like paneling on the outside of your wood paneling on your station wagon there.
Oh.
Think about that. Who would put wood on a car? It
They
wasn't really wood, probably, but it looked
mature
like
look.
wood. Times have changed. But everything comes full circle. I guarantee it'll make a comeback. No
Probably
doubt.
will. Just
in a
some
different
other
form.
type.
In a different form.
Yeah, that's right. Some other type of paneling.
It'll be like a cooler version. We'll be like, oh, this is cool. They have to call it something different though, because paneling is just not sexy anymore.
Wall covering.
It's kind of like wood plank walling or something like that. They'll come up with some kind of crazy name for it.
Brazilian wall cover.
Yeah. They got to throw like an international name in there, like some kind of like the Amazon rainforest. They got it from or something like that. That's it'll make it more appealing. So anyway, I'll be spending this week probably mostly, except for Tuesdays and Wednesdays when I do filming, will probably be my dad's. I should set up like a webcam there, in case my dad says anything like really, I'm waiting. I keep asking him.
You need to because that's that's the.
I've been videotape. What I do is I pull my phone out. Yeah, I pull my phone out and I put the video camera. And I start asking him questions. I'm like, Dad, any insightful words? I'm like waiting for him to give me some kind of like from the heavens. He's drawing, some kind of tremendous words of wisdom for me for the rest of my life. I'm waiting for him to deliver something like that, but he hasn't delivered anything yet. It's all been gibberish pretty much. But I know my dad. He's so creative. he wouldn't just go out like without a bang. He's got to hit me with something, you know.
Let him pull the fire alarm or something in the waist small.
If he can't even lift his hand up. If he can get out of bed now, that would be some miracle for sure. So, we'll see. We'll see. It you know, I got to just say these hospice houses are just unbelievable. You know, they have like a restaurant, like a cafeteria there. They have like you can stay there 24 hours a day if you want. They have a pull-out bed. You know, they have they have a beautiful garden and water. I'm like thinking, holy mackerel, this is so nice here. What a great way to have your last days.
Great idea.
I'm like, man, look at that fountain. I would kill to have that in my house. And everything's donated. You know, pretty much a lot of stuff is donated by people who were there before. And it's a very peaceful environment. I recommend if you have any loved ones that are, you know, have their days are numbered, look into hospice. It sounds like a depressing thing. It's completely not depressing. It's like it's dying with dignity, really. I mean, is what it is. It's funny, the doctor said to me, I was trying to decide what to do with my dad, and because I didn't want to pull the antibiotics, but they really weren't working, and I just felt like, you know, it was just like, you know, just not the right decision. And he's like, look, let me ask you this question. Your father obviously he's got dementia. If he was fully, you know, aware of what was going on and can articulate the way he did in his young years, what would he say given the situation? If he was looking at this situation now, I'd say he'd tell me to get a gun and blow his brains out. The doctor almost started laughing. I said no, and my sister said the same thing at the same time. Pretty much, you know, she was there, and I said, yeah, no, he wouldn't want to. He would say, end it. He was telling me to call Jack Kevorkian 5 years ago, you know, and end it because he was, you know.
Well, that was the dramatic part of him.
Which the funny thing was, my dad was in more pain 5 years ago than he was now, which tells me that it was probably mental pain. It was in more so than physical pain because he's on like almost no pain meds now. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I told you, my dad was on 80 milligrams of OxyContin twice a day, and he was still in pain. He was telling. He would complain. It's not doing anything.
Well, because he must have been going through a painful point in his life emotionally.
It was mental pain.
Because there's nothing like emotional pain.
It was total mental pain because as soon as his dementia got bad, where he couldn't remember anything and he couldn't remember his pain, he wasn't in pain anymore. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that the irony of life?
Yeah. Well, that's that
we can create our own pain and suffering.
Worse. That's
why I always tell people, it's a quote of the week. You get what you think about, whether you want it or not. My dad was thinking negative, painful thoughts, and that's what he was in. As soon as he couldn't make those thoughts anymore because he remembered the thoughts, he was out of pain. Isn't that if that's not cause and effect right there? Think about it. My dad had, you know, supposedly, you know, chronic degenerative spinal arthritis, which, you know, that's where he claims his pain was coming from. Which it should have gotten worse and worse and worse, obviously, right? But as his memory got worse and worse, his pain got better, less and less. And if that's not like a message out there, guys, that, you know, sometimes if you're feeling chronic pain or you're feeling like something is like always wrong with you, maybe it's the way you're thinking. Change your thinking. And people think they have to go through it. People think they have to take
but sometimes it's easier said than done.
Yeah, but you know what? Because people think they have to go take these yoga classes, or they think they have to go and be retrained. You can change the way you think in 3 seconds. You don't need to read any spiritual books to do it. You don't have to watch any Wayne Dyer seminars. You don't have to listen to Anthony Robbins. You can just change the way you think and just stop. Say the buck stops here today. Because I know a lot of people out there that are depressed all the time, and they think their life sucks, and they don't realize how good they really have it. And it's usually just because all they do is just dwell on the negative. Just change the way you think today. Think about, no matter how bad everything that's going in your life, think about good things that are going on in your life, and just focus on that. Try it for 2 days. I'm sure you can manage to do it for 2 days. I guarantee you things will change in your life. I promise you they'll change in your life. That's how sure I am of it. And on that note, we're out of time. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone.